All right, so we're going live in 30 seconds. Here we go. Welcome. Greetings. Good evening. How are you doing? Or good afternoon. In fact, good evening. And, right. Wait a second. We're just going live on the Instagram as well. So we're on. Okay. Oh, no. Oh, no. I'm gonna do this.
Let's go to grab my water.
Okay. Seems like they're having some trouble, so we'll just leave that one for a moment. Right. Okay. Seems like on the paradigm shift, there are things shifting every week as we come to do this show. But I want to welcome you and thank you for taking the time out to join us here on the paradigm shift, where we challenge the norm. We elevate the mind and tap into the energy of transformation. So today's topic is about transforming the mind. It's about, just having a little chat as well. And we're going to touch on a few different things this evening. So feel welcome, feel free to tap in, comment, share the live, and grab yourself a notepad and pen. That's for sure, because whether we know it or not, we're talking about paradigm shifts. And what does that mean? What does it mean to change the narrative, change the way we see things? So my guest and I, Kevin Wallen from One Love Rebellion, will be here to assist, challenge, encourage, inspire, and share, parts of our journeys. And any questions that you may have as well, you're welcome to share with us. So once again, welcome to the Paradigm Shift. I'm Tricia, the Elevator. Kevin, welcome.
Greetings.
How you doing?
I am lovely.
Excellent, excellent. It's been a minute. We had a little break, a little respite. How was it for you?
It was good, necessary. It was good, but it was necessary. I think coming out of the process and just not completely, how would you say, resting up and just moving on to something else.
Mm-hmm.
I just needed to get back. And now I feel like I'm back, so here we are.
Fantastic. All right. So we always know that it's good to take rest and take time out for oneself. And I just want to talk about that for a minute. How important it is to take time out, and what can happen to us when we don't.
Well, look, you have to give yourself a break. You have to give yourself some time when you just don't do your profession,
Hmm.
whatever it is. It's not just like spiritual and the teachers or whatever. It's just everybody.
Hmm.
Whatever that you do, especially whatever it is that you need to earn, it is critically important that you take a break from it and
Hmm.
focus just on
Hmm.
you and the things that are important to you. So, um, I lived in the mountains for a bit, and so I had the opportunity to be away from the hustles and bustles,
Yeah.
and really just had a chance to look at life as it is for what it is, and just came to some real incredible, you know, understandings, and I watch every generation of my family come with an idea of what life is supposed to be, an idea of what it is that they're supposed to do, an idea of what the world is all about. And they work and they try to thrive and they try to accumulate stuff. And in the end, it what was it all about and what was it all for? So being in the mountains and being away from everything, it was an opportunity for me to just take a deeper look at what it is that I was doing with my life and whether
Hmm.
or not I wanted to continue to maintain the rat race, to maintain this whole status quo, where you come, you work, you accumulate, you give it all back, and then you die.
Yeah.
I just didn't see a reason for me to get back into that. So yeah, so it was necessary for me to take that time for myself. But what is also good is, like I say, in general, maybe not everybody will have the opportunity to run off to the mountains for a bit, but at the same time, whatever your profession is, I mean, it's more than that, but at least start with that. Whatever your profession is, take a break from it every now
Yeah. Love that. That is indeed important to take time out. I wanted to let the people know a little bit about you, before we got a bit more into the conversation. For those that didn't know that, you're a motivational speaker, you're an entrepreneur, you're a lifestyle coach, you're also a fitness coach as well, among other things. And, you have lived a life of, growing up in Jamaica and having to experience certain things that were, a little bit on, I suppose, the emotional, traumatic side. Um, but you migrated to Canada at 15, attended Westwood Secondary School and Lakewood University, from which you graduated with a bachelor's degree and distinguished record in college wrestling. And following college, you also worked as a motivational speaker in various international venues. Um, there's a lot of things about you that some people do not know, some do know. But it's for those that don't know. I'd like to talk a little bit more about the things that you've done in your life in terms of your career and your entrepreneurship, the people that you've helped, the people that you've supported, and going forward. So let's start from there. Once you left university, got your degree, what was your path from there?
So after I graduated from university, well, first of all, the story of how I got into university is that I had finished high school. I wasn't very good at it, and I didn't know what I wanted to do next. And so as a result of that, I got depressed. I was just sitting in my mom's basement, and everybody would be gone off to work or to school or to do whatever. And I would just be home all day because I just literally, I did not know what to do. I did not want to work in a warehouse. I did not want to work in a restaurant washing dishes. I did not want to do the jobs that I could get, based on where I was. And so I just ended up doing nothing. And then wrestling is a sport that I love and was very good at in high school. So I went to the school that was closest to my house, which was a Catholic school, St. Augustine Catholic School. So I went there to see if they had a wrestling team because I still wanted to train or just wanted to be involved. And they did. And I asked them if they mind if I came and helped out for a bit, and they welcomed me. And so I went there and I coached the wrestling team. And after a very short time, they started to allow me more room to do what it is that I wanted to do. So the team almost became like my team. And so in the first year that I coached them, they ended up winning the Catholic school regionals. And so it was just like a bunch of bad kids that just really joined wrestling because they thought they would learn how to fight and all this kind of stuff. They were just like really rough kids. And so when I look at what wrestling was able to do with them, well, first of all, it did it with me, and that's why I'm so passionate about the sport.
Yeah.
So, so so I started coaching, and then the teachers in the school started to encourage me. Everybody was just like, Kevin, you'd be a great teacher. Why don't you go to university and come back and be a teacher? And at the time, I'm just looking at when I was in high school, I struggled. I didn't do very well. And so talking to me about going to university, I was just happy to be out of high school and not having to do any more schoolwork. But they kept on bothering me and kept on coming at me. And then one day I walked into the school and they called me into the principal's office. And by this time, they started to give me more opportunities. So they applied me they employed me as a emergency supply teacher. And what that is that I didn't necessarily need a degree or anything like that. All I needed to do that whenever there was an emergency, there was not a teacher for a class, they would call me. I would go sit in that class. There would be some work that they have to give to the students or whatever the case is. So what they realized is that whenever it is, the classes that I took were not only well behaved, but they had good things to say about me. And so
Yeah.
the principal started to give me the opportunity, and I got paid really good money too. I got paid, probably a little bit below a real teacher, but I got good money. And so they had a lot of faith in me. And so I walked in the school and they called me to the principal's office. So I went into the office, and when I went in there, he had two counselors, two guidance counselors with him, Mr. Van Mather, and I don't remember the name of the woman right now, and Mr. Marchand, which was the principal. And they had all these forms on the table, and it was university forms, the universities that they thought, would have been better for me to go to. And so they just had them there, and they had them all filled out, and the only thing they didn't have was personal information that they needed from me. And so I gave them the personal information in hopes that they would send these forms off, and then I would not get accepted, and then I wouldn't have to worry about it or hear from them again. I could continue being an emergency supply teacher. I get to be the school guy. I'm the only black guy, the black teacher in the school. I go into school and I'm wearing a shirt and a tie, and they're calling me sir. And at the time, I don't even think I was 21. So it was a really cool experience. And because I was the only black teacher, I was called upon so many times to have these discussions with these kids. And it is those kind of things that actually brought me to this place where I started to feel a love for mentoring and teaching and coaching and all that kind of stuff, because I had the opportunity to try it out, and I really loved the experience. So after the summer, or during the summer, I got the results back, and I got accepted to all three universities that I applied to. Because even though my grades were not good, because I was how would you say, I was a mature student. So what that means is that I'm 21 years old, so I can make a decision. So I'm not in school just for the sake of my parents are sending me to school. I'm in school because I want to be there. So I was able to get in under that as an as a mature student. Hold on a second. And so as a result of that, I went to university. I had the most incredible time. I didn't I didn't think I was gonna be able to make it through
Right.
because, like I said, I was extremely unprepared.
Mm-hmm.
Not prepared for the experience at all, at all, at all. Because when I was in school, every time I got a book to read, I either found the movie, or if I didn't find the movie, I went and got the little notes that summed it all up. I read the back of the book and made up some crap. So I avoid schoolwork at all costs when I was in high school. It was when I started wrestling and I knew that I had to at least pass my classes, because otherwise, well, you have to understand too, because when I was in Jamaica, I grew up, and by age 11, I had to drop out of school.
Yeah.
From 11 to 15, I didn't go to school. So by the time I got to Canada at age 15 and I went back to school, I was not prepared for that. I was in a whole new culture. There's all these different culture kids around me. I have not been in a school setting in a very long time. So when the teacher would be teaching up front and asking questions and stuff like that, when they pointed to me, I just felt away. And so as a result of that, I just started to misbehave. So they could kick me out of the class rather than me being embarrassed by going up to the board and getting something wrong. And so I
Yeah.
started to get in a whole bunch of trouble. So by the time I got the opportunity to go to university, it was such an incredible, it was such a turning point in my life, because I think the amazing thing is, during that time, it was like in the early 90s, when crack cocaine was a huge thing in Toronto, and just about everybody that I knew was getting into it and making a bag doing it. And so I remember I just had no desire to get involved with any of that kind of stuff. But at the same time, these guys were my friends. I went to school with these guys, so I was always around them everywhere. So when they're on the corner, I'm on the corner with them. I'm not selling anything, but I'm on the corner with them because I'm a friend of them.
Yeah.
So I remember when I went away to university and I came back after my first year, I came back for the summer. And there was a bunch of my friends that were hanging out at this house. And I went to this house. And I mean, they were like strippers and drug dealers, and just like a whole bunch of, but I didn't even look at it that way because they were my friends. I went to high school with these guys. So when I come home for the summer, these are the guys that I would go hang out with.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hanging out with them. And then this girl that was a stripper, she came, she came to me and she says, I see what you're up to, and I don't think you should hang around us. And I said, what? And she goes, I'm serious. I don't think you should come to this house. This is not a place for you. And and I said, I was stunned. And then
Mm-hmm.
she went around and then she said it to the rest of the group that she didn't think I should come back. And they all should just give her whatever money they had in their pockets or whatever. And everybody just take up money and gave it to her. And then she put it together and she put it in my hand. And she goes, we love you. We don't want you to come back here.
Wow.
And I
Tell
never
us
went
a
back.
little, tell us a little bit about the barbershop Unchained, which was that link that you had between the incarcerated individuals. Tell us a bit about that. On
Oh,
Roots of
wow.
Music.
Yeah, that was something else. So one of the things that I did when I got back to Jamaica is that I got into the doing work in the prisons. And so when I went into the prisons for the first time, it was mind blowing for me because I just never expected that it would have that kind of impact on me. It was just like my brothers, my uncles, my cousins, my father. It's just like every man that was related or in somehow connected to me, I saw images of them in that prison. And it
Mhm.
blew my mind, and it made me emotional, and it made me angry, and it made me just like confused, and it made me frustrated, and I felt like I couldn't do any. I just felt stuck, and I wanted to do something, and so I didn't know what it is that I wanted to do. I just knew that if it is that I was going to do anything significant, this was an amazing place to start. This is the lowest level of life that a human being can exist without being dead. It's prison. The lowest physical space that you can exist in without being dead is a prison.
True.
Because it's not just your physical, it's your mental, it's your spiritual. Everything is under attack. It's an incredible, incredible space.
Mm.
And so I figure that in this particular space, people often go to different levels. You could either go to a space where you become just like a deeply spiritual, understanding, giving kind of person,
Mm.
or you could be in this space, but based on what it is that you're surrounded with and by, you could just become an absolute animal, not care about anything because there's nothing around you but death and danger. There's nobody to trust. There's nowhere that you can drop your guard. There's nothing that is, it's inhuman. What you have to become to survive in a prison, it is
Mhm.
absolutely incredible. There's not very many people that can survive and come out so-called unscathed. So I started to do this work in the prison because I really felt that if I got an understanding, of the workings of humanity from the brothers and sisters behind bars, I think there's a rawness, there's an authenticity that comes when you just want to talk, you just want to tell your story, you just want to, it's a different space.
Mhm.
So I considered it an absolute privilege to be there and to listen to the things that I got to listen to, and to see some of the crap and be able to see through it, but at the same time to see the genuine stuff too. And so every now and then a brethren would come to me and they would say, boy, this is what I did. And they would go through and tell me the whole thing. And then they would say that I wish there was a way that I could say, I'm sorry. I know that the words are not going to put it matter because I took somebody away from their family, or, I did some really bad things or whatever. So, but sometimes I really wish that I could just express it, whether it went anywhere or not. Just I want to be able to say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And so the opportunity came where Professor Charles Nesson from Harvard University came down and he brought this guy, Ben, with him. And they were both, Ben was a local radio producer. And he just felt like the whole idea of connecting the inside world and the outside world was a very important part of how a society develops and heals. Because if it is that you're not able to go back and forth and do that kind of work, it will never happen. So we ended up having conversations, and in the conversation, they thought it would be good if I did a radio program. And
Mhm.
so we approached uh, Rasmond Brown at the time from Roots FM. She was at Fame and Cool FM as well. But nonetheless, so we approached her with the idea. She liked the idea. We did a pilot show. We went down and did an example of it, and it was fantastic. We loved it. It was great. And so what it is that we started to do was now spread the news in the prisons that we were doing the show, and that the guys in prison could tune in and they could listen. And so while they were in prison, now we could connect the outside. This is how we connect the inside and the outside, because now people who don't even know where their family members are, or which prison they're in, or what's going on with them, these people could now call into my program and they could send a shout out to their family members. It was
Yeah.
specifically for the prison. So inmates, come to think of it, I feel like, as I'm saying it now, I feel like maybe it's time that maybe I'll give it another year. It was such a powerful show. So it was a Sunday afternoon. We played the kind of music that we would play in the process, just very, just the kind of music that kind of hits you and opens you up and just kind of get you into the right space. So people would call, they would say hello to their family members. Family members would write notes and give them to me. I would have an assistant who would read these things, read letters, read different things, and we would have some incredible experiences. Sometimes people would call and they would be angry at us. They would be saying like, these guys are prisoners and you're giving them a voice and you're giving them a platform and all of these different kind of stuff. And I would just allow them to speak and hear what it is that they have to say and have the conversation. Have the
They're
conversation in a
human
way that
beings, just like everyone else, isn't it? They're human beings. They have a voice.
absolutely, absolutely. But at the same time, I wanted it to be a space where we weren't forcing the prison on the community, because a lot of people in the community are still angry at these guys. So we
Yeah.
had to take an approach where it was it's like a healing circle. So you bring all the different parties together, but you don't force them on each other. You just bring them in a space and then allow the healing to happen organically.
Mm-hmm.
And so because I being the mediator, the medium in between all the different parties, and the reason why I started the program is just absolute love. There's nothing else. I really
Mm-hmm.
just wanted to do something that gave people an opportunity to heal, and this was a great way to do it. So me being in the middle of some of these conversations and sometimes confrontations, um, we were able to work them out because I
Yeah.
understood and I had compassion for both sides of the equation.
Well, Kevin, undoubtedly, it has been said that you are a philanthropist at heart. And we know that you
Mm-hmm.
strongly believe that excellence can and will be achieved when we apply the principles of hard work. As you said, a positive attitude and a strong commitment to excellence. And your primary focus is the development, you're a motivational speaker, and it's to create an environment that will help individuals to develop positive self-image. And this, you believe, is the core of each individual's personality. With this hurdle crossed, it becomes easier to empower oneself with the tools, techniques, and skills necessary for success. And that's what I see your programs that you are rolling out, the process, the paradigm shift here, and also the fitness and stuff. Tell
Yeah.
us a bit more about the process and how, because I know you've got one coming up, isn't it? End of June, 29th
End
of
of
June is the
yes.
next process that's taking place. And we're here to help people to find that change in the narrative. Let's talk about how we can help change the way that we see things, because people have beliefs but you can't see beliefs. We were talking about it the other day, that you can't actually see a belief. It's seeing something take place and you creating a belief within your mind as to why that thing is taking place. For example, um you're a young boy growing up, your mom and your dad, whenever they're at home, you always see them on the laptop, on their phone, or they're cooking food, or they're having a conversation with themselves. And to you, it seems like they don't care about you,
Mm-hmm.
they're not interested in you. And so you grow up feeling like whenever somebody doesn't give you eye contact or is in their phone or whatever, is not paying you any attention, that you're not loved, you're not seen, you're not cared for. And really, when you check it out, most times you find that mom and dad actually were busy trying to create a business or working for a boss that was so, such a bad boss, a boss that just didn't allow you to have any time or space. So therefore, mom and dad's minds were always about the work, always making sure that the money was coming in. so that you could go to school, so that you could have the clothes on your back, but you didn't see that. All you saw was that mom and dad were always, or mom or dad, whoever was the main carer at that time. So just as an example, how that can etch a belief in one's mind, you know, of abandonment, rejection, so on and so forth. Can you speak into the space where, you know, you might have someone that has a struggle with attachment, an anxious attachment, an avoidant attachment, through this belief that if they do get attached to anyone or find feelings to anyone, that they will leave or they will abandon them?
Yeah, I think there's work that we have to do. It's incredible because the stuff everything that has gone on in your life has been on purpose. Nothing's been wasted. Everything has been a part of your process of becoming. The thing about it, though, is that because while you were going through these things, these learning cycles or channels or whatever the case is, while you were going through this, there is this, there was so much resistance to it because you didn't want to suffer. You didn't want to go through the hard stuff. You didn't want to struggle. So as a result of that, especially in the earlier years of your life, in your below your teenage years, there are certain things that stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And certain things that you consider to be traumatizing or painful or whatever. There's a lot of that stuff back there. Like I said, it's perfect. It happened exactly the way it ought to happen, all of that kind of stuff, because that is what has brought you to where it is that you are right now. Mm-hmm. And from where it is that you are, you can at least make a clear choice that you're not going to walk down certain roads, you're not going to do certain things again. At least you have that. And if you have that power, then you have the power to change your life. Because the way you showed up in your past is what brought you to where it is that you are right now. So you have the opportunity to take a closer look at that. And if it is that you can see the patterns, because the patterns are what gets us, because the patterns, they happen it's just automatic. You've always done it. You know what I mean? So it's not like you even think about it. That this is the way I am. This is what I've always been. You know, this is the way I do it. This is the way I put my shoes on. This is the way I open my door. This is how I greet people, whatever. But how it is that we, you know, in a sense, we came into all of that. So the question of, what was the question that you asked me again? Give me quickly.
It was basically like, you know, how we can change the narrative on a belief, because we can't see a belief, right? It's an example of something else.
So let me jump back right in, because the thought is still in my mind a bit. So what happens when we start to clear? There are two people that have authority over you. Mm-hmm. Your mother and your father. Nobody else. There are a lot of people that you may surrender power to, but none of them get automatically what mom and dad gets. So whenever it is that you're struggling and you have stuff like childhood trauma, anybody that comes, once you have been able to clear your mom and dad, whoever else you have traumatized or you have issues with, it's a lot easier to deal with them. Because if it is that you're not if you have not dealt with mom and dad, what now happens is that you're dealing with everybody else as mom and dad, not knowing that that is what you're doing. Because that healing still has to be done, you're going to create opportunities for that healing to be done. And so you're going to pull all kind of people into all kind of things. You're going to turn the people around you into all kind of things so that they continue to do whatever it is that you need them to do, so that you can stay present to the whole idea of that sore until you heal it, until you clear it up. So once you're able to clear your mom and once you're able to clear your dad, a lot of people think that, okay, once I'm able to forgive my mom and I forgive my dad and all that kind of stuff, then I'm clear. But no, you're not clear. The work has just begun. And here's the crazy thing about it. Once you clear mom and dad and you realize that, oh, the way I was behaving is because my mom wasn't there, or my dad beat me when I was 5, or, I did, my mom embarrassed me. And so because of that, I started to become this really horrible person. I was mean to other people and all that kind of stuff. Here's the thing about it. Even though you were able to use all that story that you've created to justify the things that you did, you still have to do the work to clean them up. That's still your work. And that's the bulk of the work. Because now what happens, you've cleared mom and dad, and then you realize that, oh my God, it wasn't my mom why I did the things I did. I did them because I wanted to do them, but I used my mom as justification. And when you can justify doing what it is that you're doing, that's the heights of evil, man. You know it's wrong. But because you have a reason, or because you have this thing happened to me, I was touched at this person there. And once you have this thing that you can lean on, it changes everything. So it's very important that when you're doing this so-called journey and working on self, you have to do these two things. You have to clear up. Because a lot of the time, some people say like, but I don't have any issues with my mom and I don't have any issues with my dad. You may not look at it as an issue because it's so insignificant. But when you were a child and when it happened, it wasn't insignificant. And so sometimes it could be just something like your mom take away your book and gave it to your sister because she thought your sister needed it more than you did, or she took her lollipop, or she took something of yours, and just like, and so you hate your sister for your entire lifetime because, and those things stick. So the key to it is that once you clear mom and dad, that's when the journey truly begins. And a lot of people that are on their healing journey, that's the part where they get stuck. Because once they clear mom and dad, and once they find the big hurdles, they now feel like they have arrived. And so they have not even stopped to take a look because the ego is now riding high. Oh my goodness, and I'm this person and that. And so the ego is riding high. So they're not going to stop and take a look at the things that they have done. They're ready to forgive themselves and move on. But it's not so easy just to forgive yourself and move on, especially in areas where you have scarred people because you thought what you thought. So even though you were scarred yourself, and even though it was a hurt person hurting people, now that you've cleared the people that you thought messed you up, so you were doing this, now that you realize that you were doing it and that you had choice all along, it's 100% your responsibility. If you want peace of mind, if you want freedom, to clean up the things you did, even though you felt justified in doing them, you have to go back and you have to clean them up. And it's really for work, because a lot of people are not going to want to do this work, because a lot of people have messed up their lives because of what they thought they had a right to do. My mom did this to me when I was a child, and my father did this, and my cousin raped me, and all these different things. And so we become and we start doing these things. And so when our healing journey, sometimes a lot of people, they take a look at what it is that it would mean for them to heal, what they would have to do, and it's too much. It's like you might as well just continue down the path of being an ass, because you've done too much.
Yeah. So
You've
do you
done too
think
much, and you've justified doing too much.
do you think that people fear paradigm shifts because they may feel threatened about their comfort or familiarity?
You have to face yourself, and it's fearful. It's a lot of people can't face themselves. A lot of people have done a lot of different things to survive or to come through. But when it is that you get to your space of clarity, of compassion, of love, of understanding, when you get to that space and you stop for a moment and you take a look and you say, oh my God, and you come face to face with the fact that you thought, and because you felt that you had the justification, you felt that you had the reason to be angry, you felt like you had the right in the moment, you felt like you had all the rights to just kind of be and do whatever.
Yeah.
And it's you still got to clear that. Your karma rides on that. You cannot blame that on anyone. There's nothing that you have done that you can blame on someone else. Someone may have influenced you. Someone may have all of these different kind of things might very well be there. But ultimately, you did what you did, and you have to give account.
Absolutely. Do you think that growth is possible without a paradigm shift?
It can't be. It can't be, because if you have not taken a look, a paradigm shift really, it's like you go on a journey of introspection. You take a look at everything that has gone on in your life, because everything that has gone on in your life has brought you to where it is that you are now.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that's going on in your life now is taking you where it is that you want to go next, or where it is that you go next. Forget about even where you want to go next. What you're doing will determine where you go. So you may want to go wherever, someplace else. You may want to go someplace fancy, but you're not doing the kind of things. You're not taking the kind of steps that leads you in that direction.
Yeah.
So the way you show up is what is responsible for where you end up. So if it is that you came through and you have a lot of defaults, you have a lot of patterns, you grew up in communities where there was like a lot of lack, a lot of violence. There was never, so you come out with this struggling mindset and this hustler mindset or whatever it is, survival mindset. And so you have not been able to stop and smell the roses, because you're just been stuck trying to not become like the rest of your generations.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's some key aspects of yourself that you sometimes choose to give up, because you find that just not wanting to struggle is huge. But a lot of the times, what we don't understand is that it is within the struggle that we find growth. If it is that you're not struggling, if it is that you don't buck up on something that you've never seen before, and you don't push yourself to figure it out, you've never, it's amazing. That's where you grow. It's everything is always just perfect. If you never get a flat, you never have to change a flat tire. You don't learn certain things. You just have to. It just.
Well, no pain, no gain, isn't it? No pain, no gain, as they say. And every test leads us to a testimony. So we
try everything. We try everything to get away from the lessons. But life puts us where we need to be. And if it is that we take a moment to just look around, don't just run out. Just at least look around and then to come out. But if you just run out because you're so frightened, you don't even know when you end up back in the same situation, because you never got a chance to even look at where you were to know that you can, okay, this is where I am and I want to come back here. So you don't even know what you're running from. So you run, go and borrow money. You run, go and hurt people because you feel like you need it and you're not struggle. You start lying, you start this, you're letting people down, trust broken all over the place. That's why your life look the way that it does. It don't look the way that it does because of government, this, that, and that. There's a certain things that life has to slow you down, because you have to clean up before you leave this planet. You have to get it together. At least, I hope we would all want to get it together, because otherwise we're just on the clock, we're on the wheel, and we're just going to run a 9 to 5, and then we're going to retire, and then we're going to die, and then that is it.
This is true.
I think we owe it to ourselves to do more than that.
So how would you say that, when we're going through this journey, we're going through this paradigm shift, we recognize that we messed up big time or whatever, based upon who we became to cope with the situations that we were going through? How would you say that how would we deal with the inner conflict that goes on, like when your intuition says that you should go, but your environment is saying that you should stay? How do you deal with that when like you got to go to somebody and ask them for forgiveness or whatever, go and do it, but your environment, your friends or whatever, saying, but why? How you deal with that inner conflict, but also with the environment that you're around?
This journey is such a personal journey, and we are so quick. We can't wait to make it like a group hug or a group of something. It's a personal journey.
Mm-hmm.
So we are running to people to ask for forgiveness and to talk it out and this and that. But a lot of the times when we're doing that, we're not ready to do that yet.
Mm.
But we're rushing that process because our egos are still very much alive. We want whatever it is that we're going to get out of that conversation. Our egos want it. And a lot of the times you're not ready, and that's why it doesn't work out. When heart to heart connects, it's a whole different vibe. When you walk into a room and you're ready to forgive somebody and you're done with whatever it is and all that kind of stuff, and you are at that point, you don't even have to say a word. You don't have to try to make anything look or feel anyway. It just is what it is. It's just a beautiful thing. It's a very it's there's nothing. It's not a force.
Mm.
Anyway, I
I hear you and I feel you, and I want to just allow you to take that moment right there, man. I just want to greet our guests that are locked into the show and welcome you to the show. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for joining. This is the Paradigm Shift with myself, Tricia O'Neill, and Kevin Wallen. And I just want to run a quick poll with those that are watching right now and maybe watch the replay afterwards. What would you say is harder to do? Would you think for you personally or anyone, do you think it's changing your mind or watching others refuse to change? Now, I'd love for you to put your answers in the comments. What would you what do you feel is harder, to change your mind or to watch somebody else refuse to change? What is it for you, Kevin?
well, first, I think in at some point I probably would have. I don't know what anybody's going through, and so my understanding of it is that people are usually very honest
Mm-hmm.
about where they are. So even though it may not seem logical or whatever, clear to us, in their minds, from their perspective, it makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you see two people in an argument, they are equally angry and they're equally right and they're equally adamant that they're right and they're equally, and they're just going at it and both of them are equally. But it's just perspective.
Yeah.
So I can't judge. At least I try my best not to judge. So the work that I feel like I have to do is on me. And so whenever it is that I bump into someone that makes me feel a particular way, I then ask myself, why do I feel this way? Especially if it's somebody that I've never seen before or they have not done me any harm or, whatever.
Yeah.
And so if it is that in a case where I have a member, a family, or a friend, and whatever the case is, and I feel that they need to do something, well, first I'm going to try not to feel that I feel that they should. I'm going to try to just kind of take a look and I just want to not be so judgmental so people have the opportunity that I had. There's a lot of times when people looked on and because of how it is that they thought, or what it is that they thought they were looking at, they would treat me a particular way or deal with me a particular way. And so they had no idea what was going on in my mind. So while they might have thought that I was being whatever the negative terms that they might have used, I was just on my journey doing me, becoming this guy.
Yeah.
And it was not always clear to a lot of people. And so people try to shame you into something. They try to get you to all different kind of things.
Yeah.
And when you take a look at it, sometimes we want to be angry at them because my brother said this to me and my father said this, my mom said this to me, and they were trying to insult me and whatever the case is, all in the name of love. From their perspective, if you do this, your life is going to be better.
Yeah.
This is going to make you a better man. This is going to make people look at you differently. This is going to blah, 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 blah. And so it's all meant. And that's why the world look the way that it does, because It's not like a bunch of evil people spewing a lot of evil onto the world. It's just a bunch of people who think that they're right because the world I would think we're right.
And for
So
the
it's not
most
like
part, for the most part we are right, because what's right for you is just not right for someone else. Do you know what I mean? So I suppose it swings in roundabouts. Not true?
yeah. Again, the world look the way that it does because we all believe that we are right,
Absolutely.
and nothing wrong with that. But once we have that understanding, then it then leads to compassion because I am as adamant about it as I am because of how it is that I see it.
Yeah.
And so if I can allow myself for a moment to see it the way you see it, then maybe I will see something different. But sometimes we don't even give each other the opportunity to get close because I don't believe. I
Mm.
don't believe you understand. And if I don't believe you understand, I feel judged by every word that you say. But
Yeah.
if I believe and feel as though you understand, then I will open myself up to whatever ideas you may have to help me to solve whatever the problem is. But if I don't believe that you understand, I'm going to be trying to convince you to understand, or I'm just going to stop talking to you.
I mean, that in itself is a paradigm, isn't it? That you think that because your opinion or your belief may be challenged, or even someone has an opinion that is not sounding quite right, like they're in agreement with you, automatically you feel that they're against you. So you go on the defense. That
Mhm.
that comes from a place of how maybe you was nurtured or how you've learned to communicate, and
Culture.
it's not effective communication. And this is one of the things that I know that you're effectively doing with some of the projects that you're doing out on the streets, is helping people to find ways of effective conflict resolution, and also being able to communicate effectively with one another verbally, you know, in a place of calm, in a place of stillness. My question is, you know, to you, do you think that a paradigm shift can take place intentionally? Can you make it happen intentionally? Or do you feel that it always comes about through chaos or crisis?
Um, I want us to be more, I want us to normalize doing the work.
Yeah.
I want us to normalize doing the work. And normalize doing the work meaning that every now and then, maybe around even your birthday. So
Mm.
rather than just going to celebration where we drink and party and eat cake and all that kind of stuff, maybe you just get the people that are really close to you and just get into a space and just do something similar to a paradigm shift. Where are you now? What did you have planned for the year? How, where did to start some real conversations.
Mhm.
And I think I don't know, I really, where did you go?
I'm here. I'm here. Just
Okay.
carry on. Carry on.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought to see you disappear. But anyway, I think what was I
My apologies. So sorry. I had to this somebody passing and doing something in the screen. So I had to cut it off. I do apologize. Um,
saying? No way.
but yeah, you were saying about the intentionally normalizing paradigm shifts,
Doing the work.
doing the work.
Yeah. So if it is that if we intentionally just like, again, you know what, I probably shouldn't say that so lightly because you really just start doing, just open up your mind, to what it is that you desire, and then the things that you
Mhm.
desire will find you in different ways. So you
Mhm.
may desire to be out of a rough situation that you're in, and you think what it is that you need right now is just like a bunch of money to drop in your lap. But the
Yeah.
way the universe works is that it's just like when you're doing maths. You have to know how you have to know how you got to where it is that you got to. Just in case you need to do it again, you can do it. So you need to be
Mhm.
able to show your steps. You need to be able to show your work. So when it is that we go through and we're having all of these different challenges or whatever the case is, each of them kind of puts us on that trajectory to take us to where it is that we want to go. So it doesn't matter how it may look like a struggle, as it is that it's in front of you now. It's a part of your process, and you have to trust and learn how to trust that process and trust that it's going to lead you to where it is that you want to go. But what it is that I really wanted to say around that, whenever we understand that the only reason why we're on this planet is to self-actualize, and you cannot self-actualize without having experiences of your own that you grow from. And so every time something comes up, if it is that you don't allow yourself to navigate through it, it means that whenever it is that it shows up again, it's going to take you a long time to get through it. So the more we go through and learn the lessons, it's the easier the path becomes. But for the most part, even you take a look at how it is that we raise our children. We don't want them to take bus. We don't want them to wash dishes. We don't want them to wake up early. We don't want, because all these things that we so-called didn't like. But now when you take a look at your life, you realize that it's just a part of the journey.
Yeah.
So if it is that you came into it a particular way, you can bring them into it differently. But the intention or the importance is to bring them into it.
So true, and what a rod for our backs we create sometimes when we do that as mothers and fathers. Oh no, don't let him, or don't let him do this, or don't let her do that. And it's just a nightmare as they get older, because now, you know, when you want them to go and do what they're supposed to be able to do, they're wanting you to run behind them still, you know. So.
It's not as bad. It's not as bad as we thought or we think or any of those kind of things. But we look at it the way that we do because of the lens through which we're looking at it, and that's why a paradigm shift is necessary. Once you get to a certain space and you're able to see it for what it is, then it changes everything. And once you're able to come to that understanding that everything that you're going through right now is a part of your process, so you learn to trust it. And whatever work you need to do, you trust that you're equipped and ready to do whatever work comes up in the moment. So you're good.
I'm glad you're using the word trust, because I find that, you know, and you can elaborate a bit more on this as well with me about trusting ourselves. I hear you say, trust the process and trust the universe and trust, but when growing up in certain environments where the narrative is you can't trust that one day, you know, you mustn't trust that one day, mind that one day, you know, because, you know, you just can't trust nobody, you know, all these narratives. And then you yourself do things in life, make decisions, or, you know, and the decision doesn't go the way that you're supposed to go, and you say, see, I'm not capable of even making the right decisions for my life. Within our community, I find that this is a common thread, you know, that nobody really wants to trust anybody, you know. And I have come to a point where I feel like if we learn to trust ourselves with our own lives, do you know what I mean? If we began to trust ourselves with our own minds and with our own decisions that we make, and trust that it is the right decision. As you said, we have to come to a place where we recognize how we got to where we are and what we're going to do to change it. And to be able to trust that when we move to that space of changing it, that is still the right decision. And once we learn to trust ourselves more and see that while we're trusting ourselves, like for instance, I was talking to somebody, I can't remember, a sister or brother, and they were, you know, talking about they don't like to be late. They don't want to, you know, let anybody down. You know, they don't like to not turn up for people and stuff. And what stuck out to me was that, do they do that for themselves? Do they let themselves down? Do they show up for themselves all the time when they're supposed to? Maybe they have an appointment with the gym and you don't turn up because you don't feel like it, but if somebody said, can you sit with me to do such and such, you will show up, even if you don't really feel like it, but you will show up. So the don't really feel like it. What is it about that? What is it about not trusting that even though I don't feel like it to go for John, I still go? So what if I don't feel like it for myself, but still go? What's going to happen? And, you know, that whole trusting each other within our communities, you know, is a big thing. And I just feel like it's something that we need to kind of talk about more. Do you know what I mean? Trusting self, trusting your decisions are right because you are in the right, or this decision is wrong. And it doesn't matter if somebody tells you it's right. You know in yourself it's wrong, so you're not going to do it for yourself. Talk about, you know, how we can bring about a trust within ourselves. How do we go about that when we haven't been taught how to trust? Does that make sense?
It does, because it's a difficult one, because your parents are the ones closest to you, but very early, um, it's just breaking trust, one left, right, and center.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's in the name of love, in the name of being a good mom, in the name of whatever. But your little brain don't develop that way yet. So when you tell your mom your secret, and then your mom tells your dad, she has to tell your dad. You know what I mean? Your mom and dad have each other, and you have to know because you're the child, and you know what I mean? But at the same time, as the child, you feel violated, you feel all of these things. You just have to suck it up. So a lot of us don't realize, and that's why I keep saying, you know, that the trauma that we're expecting to just be kind of, oh, that's what my trauma is, this big old thing. It's not like that at all. It's just some simple little things.
Mm.
I told my mom that I like this little boy at school, and I'm all ashamed, I'm all cute about it. And then she go and go tell my whatever. So it's the same kind of thing. So as a boy, you go tell your mom about the girl, and then before long at the dinner table, they're making fun of the old Kevin and this, where Kevin, and all the, so there's all of these things, right? And so not only is trust broken, but at the same time, they might turn around and ridicule it, because that's what families are, and they rid you. And so even though people say, oh, that was just my family, that's who I grew up, a lot of people are still stuck in that space where they became shy, or they became aggressive, or they became all of these different things just because of what it is that they needed to do to survive their families.
Yes.
And so it's so easy when you get older to say, oh, you know, and it was a lot of fun and I enjoyed myself. But it wasn't always fun when you were getting your ass whooped. It wasn't fun. When you were getting made fun of, it wasn't fun. When they were doing things and saying things that made you cry, it wasn't fun.
Mm.
And so a lot of the times you have to go back to being a child, looking at all of that, seeing that we were all children and everybody was just playing and having fun, and they were just raised. Some people took it too far, but we were just all kids. But you have to be able to break that down, see it for what it is,
Yeah.
forgive yourself, forgive others, and move on. Because there were things that happened in that moment that make you behave as an adult right now because of stuff that you felt in those moments.
And that's where we need to address the inner child, because really that's who's playing out. It's that little child who's stuck in that place right there, who want to be seen, want to be heard, and wasn't, and comes out and rears its head in the most unseen places, you know, places where
And
you
I'm
just
saying, when human beings are behaving in particular ways, don't complicate it.
yeah.
Don't try to complicate it. Just take a look at how they were brought up. When they're being unreasonable and they're this and they're aggressive and they're all of these different things, just go on that introspection journey.
Mm-hmm.
You know, are you made? You don't have to go on that introspection journey. You just have to know that they're going through what they're going through, and they need to do whatever they need to do. But it's not my thing. If they're not ready to look at it, or they don't, whatever. If you can help, you help. But if not, the best thing that you can do, the worst thing that you can do, is try to give someone advice that don't want your advice.
Yeah, unsolicited
And the
advice.
best thing you can do, if you really care about someone, the best thing you can do is to hold space. Because sometimes we really don't know. Sometimes a person just need to hear themselves say something, and then they will come up with their own answers. So sometimes all we really need to do is to hold space.
True.
You know, if it is that you can ask a few probing questions that make them go deeper, then sure. But sometimes you really just need to hold space because sometimes people just want to hear themselves say things.
We've seen a rise, a collective rise, and a collective shift in the rise of wellness, breaking gender roles, moving from consumerism to sustainabilities. What do you think sparked that global awakening?
I think it's the same thing that everybody's afraid of. The same thing that's got everybody scared is the direction in which the world is going. You know, and so I am optimistic that where we're at right now is that there is no choice. The light workers will have to show themselves. You know, not even
Yeah.
necessarily show themselves, they would have to step forward. Because what now needs what's now happening is that it's so blatant, you know, in terms of the things that are going on in the world that are not necessarily in the best interest, in the best of in the collective interest. So what now needs to happen is that better examples are examples because everybody is we're just following, right? So if there are no good examples to follow, because the people who really feel like them have a light or them have whatever, they're hiding it because they're afraid, then that just defeats the purpose. And
Do you
so,
think
go ahead.
do you think social media is helping or hindering paradigm shifts?
I think social media can be whatever it is that we want it to be. However, the moment you're us against them, no matter how right you are, you become wrong. And so a lot of social media is I'm right, you're wrong. A lot of it is just like a lot of cussing, a lot of whatever. But the reality of it is that we can all learn from each other. But if it is that you're insulting me, then you're shutting down my capacity to learn from you.
Yeah.
You know, are you hindering it anyway? Because once I'm turned off, I learn best when I'm inspired. And once I'm inspired, I'm like a sponge. I soak up everything that comes out of me. But if it is that I don't feel good about myself, if it is that I'm around you and I just feel I can't even think. So I might exist just for the moment, just to be there, just to get through whatever. But I want to be inspired. You know, I want to be inspired. And so I just know that it's not as complicated as we make it.
So the process is taking place June the 29th until the 1st of July, am I correct?
Yes.
Tell us about that wonderful opportunity for that somebody who may be just ready right now to start changing some things. Tell us about the process. Tell us where we can find you and all the rest
You
of that
know,
good stuff.
for years, I've been doing the process for many years now. And the aim is always to get a complete complement, whatever it is that the numbers that we're looking for, to get a full complement of people in the space and to kind of get this thing going. But every process that I've done, it's always been the perfect group of people who came together to do whatever it is that they needed to do.
Yeah.
And so, what it is that I will say about the process is that you are what you are and where you are because of what's gone into your mind. But you can change what you are and change where you are by changing what goes into your mind. The beautiful thing about that is that you're not stuck with you. If you don't like who you are, you can always change. but change
Mhm.
into what? From what? What am I changing? What am I looking at? What am I doing? And so what the process does is that it allows you to take a closer look at how it is that you became who it is that you are. And as you're taking that look, you're going to see some things that have served you well. You're going to see some things that has not served you well. And it is now
Mm.
in your best interest to make the necessary adjustments. So the Calvary is not coming. You are the only one that can save you. And so a lot of the times, the things that keep us captive is our inability to navigate what it is that we've been through, how it is that we've come through. So your inability to navigate that and to make sense of it is that it's almost like your treasures are now lost, because everything that you've been through, if it is that you're able to understand it, not only can you use it to make a difference in the world, but it can feed you. You know, it will be how it is that you leave your legacy, you leave something on this planet, because you would have experienced life in such a unique way, and then you
Mhm.
help others to navigate. And so sometimes what that looks like is that it might be that you were scammed and you lost everything, you know, and then you had to climb back through, and how it is that you got back through. And maybe you have to deal with the persons that did it to you, and how did you navigate that, and how well you navigate it is how well you can help somebody else navigate going through it.
Yeah.
So automatically, by going through what we go through, is like that's when you become a teacher, by being able to overcome it. So a lot of people go through stuff, and so they were molested at an early age. Their parents, they were abandoned at an early age, or some things would have happened. And so the narrative that they carry is that this thing happened to me, therefore I lost this, and I became that, and it happened to me and this person. And so they create this story so that they can continue to live the narrative that I was victimized.
Yeah.
And so, not taking away that something did happen to you, but the fact that for the last year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years, 30 years, the moment that took 5 minutes and happened, you've created a story around it, because you now have a narrative that you've created that you want to keep supporting. And so, if it is that you let go, that narrative is no longer there. I'm justified in being angry because this happened to me. So if it is that I let that situation go, if I heal that situation, then why am I now angry? No, I'm not angry because of this. I'm angry because it's me. So now I'm gonna have to take responsibility for this
Mhm.
anger that I once put on the fact that my mom left when I was 5. And so it just comes back to what it is that I was talking about earlier, is that the work is so personal. It's so personal, and that's our duty on this planet, is to do that personal work and become who it is that we came to this planet to be, you know.
Mhm.
And sometimes so on far-fetched when you're talking about the universe and the planet and who it is that you are, but though we might be a speck of dust as it relates to the big picture, the fact that we have given the ability to reason and to do whatever it is that we're doing now, it means that we have a role to play. And so you can take it lightly. You can come to this planet, you can be normal, you can be a regular person, you can do that. That's okay. And you can complain about the things and the plight and the, but if it is that you recognize how powerful it is when you are able to effect change as opposed to complain about how things are,
Mhm.
so much more powerful.
So I want to once again thank our viewers for tuning in this evening. I want you to also note down the number on the screen. I want you to also take a note of what's been said here tonight and have a look within yourselves. And maybe for this week, it could be even a challenge for you to do, is to take a look at what you may be struggling with, what you may have as a belief that you grew up with, that you were shown as a child, and just make a little note, make a little journal of it. Take a time for yourself just to sit for a minute, you know, look at one area in your life. I always like to give you something to do after the end of the shows, because there's a lot of information that we give out, you know, and we don't want you to sit there gathering information. We want you to actually take some of what you've heard and try and apply it to your life, so then it becomes knowledge, because knowledge is power, but it's only powerful when we actually practice it. So right now, I'm going to say, for those of you who are listening right now, pick one area of your life, your career, your health, your relationships, and ask yourself, really ask yourself, honestly and truthfully. They're two different things. Honestly and truthfully ask yourself, what if the way I've been thinking is completely wrong? And then journal what comes up. And when we join back again on Monday, back here again for the paradigm shift, I'd love for you to join us and share. You know, you can do it anonymously, you can send it by WhatsApp or whatever, but share with us what comes up. You know, what do you think you're really thinking? What have I been thinking that could be completely wrong? Because in all of what is being said, paradigm shifts are not just about change. You know, as you'll hear Kevin say many times, they're about elevation. You know, they're about how we break cycles, how we open doors, and how we become more aligned with our purpose, with our truth. That's how we can become all and who we are called to be here on this planet. I love my guest, Kevin Wallen. You're doing a wonderful work in the community, out on the streets, you know. And if anyone's ever going to Jamaica, coming to Jamaica, in Jamaica, and you feel like you can give Kevin a strength, you know, out on the streets, go and join him, be there. Check out his Instagram page, Kevin Wallen. Is it KD Wallen? KD Wallen on
Yeah.
Instagram.
Kevin, I think I changed it to Kevin Wallen recently.
Okay, so Kevin Wallen on Instagram, check it out. Also, if you feel like anything that's been said tonight, you'd like to spend a bit more time with Kevin, then you can also, the number is on the screen. Make sure the number's on the screen for you to check it out. And also, if you wanted to book a space on the process retreat, which is taking place on the 29th of June to the 1st of July. Any one of those things, one-on-ones, anything like that, you can contact Kevin on that number you see on the screen, 876-354-5125. Because right about now, the time is now. The time is for change. Don't really want to bring politics into it, but if anyone's watching Elev8tor, the time is now for change. He's changing a narrative that has been there for centuries. And he's changing the narrative.
I think when you take a look at...
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to finish up that he's bringing about a change. He's bringing about a change in the mindsets of the people in Burkina Faso, that they can trust themselves, that they can rely on themselves, that they can be self-sufficient, that they can live off of their own land. And I believe that for many, many years, they didn't believe that. They never thought it possible.
When I first started doing the work,
mm-hmm.
when I first started doing the work in the prisons, I always used to say to the guy that to the guys that I want a quiet revolution. I want to be a part of something that shifts Jamaica. I want to be a part of something that makes a difference. And so when I look at all the different areas that we've been through, and that's what I'm saying, nothing is wasted. We spent a whole bunch of time. The first place we landed working was in the prisons. And everybody, oh, them dirty criminal, them for this, them for that. But we learned so much from these guys that when we went into schools with our program, we could take that information, those insights with us. Not only could we take the insights with us, sometimes we literally took some of the inmates into the schools with us so that they could have conversations with the students and give them a different perspective. So I just take a look at this, all the different areas, all the different bits and pieces. You know, even my time away when I went up in the mountains, it was just, I would never have chosen that. It was so hard. In the beginning, especially, it was so hard. I literally had to climb this hill every single day, whether I like it or not. I have to climb this hill, and when I get to the top of it, I'm not talking about this a liquor sweat. It's like exercise. But I'm not doing it to exercise. I just want to go home. And that's the only way that I can get home. Until one day, I realized that, oh my goodness, I'm in amazing shape. I'm in incredible shape. I've been cussing, I've been doing this thing, but look at this. And then I started to take another look, and rather than talking about how cold the river was and just the whole idea that you have to be in this cold water every day, I just started to embrace it. And though it may take me 10 minutes or 15 minutes of standing on the side thinking whether or not I want to go in because it's so cold, but I just kept on doing what I'm doing until I just embraced that change to the point where I never thought about the cold water. I just always knew how it is that I felt when I came out of that water. So it didn't matter how I got in it, I knew how I felt when I got out, and that was enough for me to get in it. And so everything that started to change, it was just like a completely different perspective. So I use that to wrap up because a lot of the times we go through stuff in our lives, and when we feel like stuff is at an edge, is like you don't know where to go, you don't know what to do. Life just seems like it's just life in a way that you don't want to deal with it right now. But at the same time, that's what's in front of you. And 2 years later, 3 years later, as long as you stay the course and you don't create those spaces where you don't want to come back to, you know what I mean? You don't end up, because life is life and you do things that goes against the karma, it goes against humanity. Because it's those things that keep us in suffering. Is when we get clear and then we're able to look, and then when we look back, we see a whole heap of mess that we created. And so, as I'm saying, as you go through life right now, it all comes down to this: as you go through whatever it is that you're going through, the cleaner, the more integrity, the more honesty, the more humility, the more you can stick to what you know within your soul to be the right thing. That's where the freedom is. You are going to be able to see clearly what your life is. But when it is that you get to that clarity, make sure that you would not have messed things up when it is that you were in the stage of confusion.
Yes.
So whatever it is, anyhow, I could get into a whole nother thing with that. So let me not get into all that.
Well, you know, this is the thing about the work that we do. Do you know what I mean? There is so much, you know, that we have to offer, that you have to offer, you know, and it is when we start to do the work, I think it's more and more we start to realize really what is, you know, there that's needed and what we actually can do. But we have to make that step. The journey of 1,000 steps starts with one. You know, the journey of change starts with starts with you. It starts with you listening right now, watching. Once one person's doing it, someone else is going to see you. Someone else is going to want to know how. That's your opportunity to share and to teach, you know? So at this point, you know, I want to We've been on what, an hour or so. It's been really, really great conversation tonight. You know,
I look forward to watching it back. Actually,
it's going to be great. Um, I'm grateful for our viewers as well, and you know, for sharing the live and also sharing the show once you see it afterwards. Remember, we're here every Monday. We're working out the technicalities. We give thanks for those who have been really patient with us while we've been working out the different platforms, because we want to be able to, you know, be there for as many people as we can. And we know there are different platforms that we all have. So we're trying to gather them all together to make sure that we can just be in one place and that we can be with you wherever you are, you know, making that change, wanting to make the change. We're here. So thank you, Kevin. One Love Rebellion, Wallen. Thank you once again for your time, your energy, for your wisdom, you know,
we made
and
it.
being you. Amazing, amazing. Remember, one of my mottos is we don't hate, we elevate, for love is the highest frequency. And I
It
do
sure
feel
is.
that in authentic is even higher. So once you're authentic and you're operating on the vibration of love, you smashed it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm Tricia O'Neill, the elevator.
I'm
Here.
Kevin Wallen, One Love Rebel.
Much love, people. We thank you. We'll see you again, same time, same place, next strong, not week, next strong, Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 a.m. British Standard Time. Thank you again. Bye for now.
Beauty.